So I want to welcome everybody here that's coming on, and we'll be getting a few more joining us. But everyone who's jumping on tonight, we're into budgeting, and we have a presentation. I heard it a couple years ago. It's funny how time flies, but it's about real money, real world. It was a great budgeting workshop, and I thought if they could do it virtually, I wanted to make sure we could share it all, and give you guys a chance to kind of experience the workshop that's offered by the Ohio Extension. It's Ohio State University Extension. So for those who don't know who I am, my name is Patty Schramm. I'm the Parent Resource Trainer Coordinator for the SALT program. And this is SALT Teens and Me tonight, because we wanted to incorporate or have not only the students join, but the parents or caregivers also participate in trying to look at this topic on budgeting. It's a difficult one. It's one of those hurdles or challenges as you start getting a job, getting out into the workforce, making that transition to adulthood, whether it's a summer job or whether it's even, one that comes after you graduate. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather so she can, we have Heather Reister tonight with the Ohio State University Extension Office. And we have Andrea Harker here as one of your local facilitators from Butler County, from Montgomery County Board of DD. And they'll be here to assist. So any questions you have during this session, please put it in the chat box. You can raise your hand to ask a question, but we'll have open discussion at the end. You can just write it down and we can ask it at the end too. So I'm going to turn it over to Heather.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Reister. Thanks, Patty and Andrea, for inviting me to come tonight. I'm Heather Reister. I'm with Ohio State University Extension, and I am a family consumer sciences educator, which means that I work really closely with families on topics like parenting, nutrition and health, and financial literacy. And so one of our programs, one of our beloved programs that we all love to teach so much, is called Real Money, Real World. And what this program is, it's a way to teach youth an introduction to budgeting and to saving, and how to make some independent choices on how they want to spend their money. And so what we do is we give some classroom lessons. There are 4 lessons that we actually usually do. And then we set up a simulation where students come in and they bring this worksheet that we're going to go through here in a minute into the simulation, and they visit the different booths that we have set up. And you're going to get to see those in a virtual format. But they visit them and they make choices on how they want to spend the money that has been assigned to them, the career that's been assigned to them. It's a really fun activity, but the last couple of years, things have changed a little bit, and we've had to do some virtual programming. And so we've kind of converted this to fit our needs for tonight. And so we're going to try to go through this and go through the worksheet and talk a little bit about what the front page is, which gives us our starting total. And then as I scroll down, you'll see the back page, which is where we're going to spend most of our time, this checkbook registry. And what happens here is we get this beginning balance that you'll see right here. And from there, we're going to make some choices as we virtually visit each booth, just like we would if we were in person. And your student's going to make some choices at that booth of how they want to spend their money. And as they make those choices, that beginning balance is going to get a little less and less, just like it does for all of us when we make our monthly choices of how we spend our paycheck. So we're going to get started. And the first thing we have to do is choose our career. So each student is going to choose if they would like a career as a fast food worker, which is this first page you can see here. And hopefully you guys can see it okay. I'll make it a little bit smaller, but I don't want to make it too small. I want you to be able to see it. So your choices are fast food worker, or as I scroll down, a home health aide. And you can see that the gross annual salary, which is this line right here where it says gross annual salary, For the home health aid is $21,500. And you can see as I scroll back up, for the fast food worker, the gross annual salary is $19,500. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask students to choose which one of those occupations they would like to have for the simulation. So if you have a parent with you working beside you, you guys can talk about it for a second and decide which one interests you the most. And once you've decided that, we're going to move down to our determining our net pay, which is what we need to begin the simulation. So the first thing I want to point out is on this line, we have the word gross pay, gross income. And you can see that this number here, this 1625, this first one is annual salaries. This is what we make in 12 months, where this is gross monthly income, the 1625. So we've just simply taken the 1950 and divided it by 12 because there's 12 months in a year to get our monthly income. And when you see the word gross, that means that that is simply your hourly wage times the number of hours that you're working. And we're going to assume that you're working full time. And this is how we come up with this number. So this is before you would pay any taxes or any deductions are taken out of your pay. This is just your monthly or your hourly pay times the number of hours that you work. So once we get that gross number, we're going to put it right here under determining your net pay under the column of balance. You can see the 1625 here. This is where we're going to put this gross monthly income on that top balance block. And from there, we're going to start subtracting some of our monthly deductions that we have to pay out of our paycheck. The first one is going to be our federal tax. So based on this income for this work, the federal tax, which based on family size and income, is $55.15. And so once we have, we'll just subtract that amount from the 1625 to get our balance. Then we'll subtract the state and local tax, which is about 5.5% of our gross monthly, and put the balance here under our balance column. Then we're going to subtract our FICA amount, which is about 7.65% of our gross monthly income. And that accounts for our Social Security and our Medicare. And again, our running balance. And that is $124.31 for this amount. Then we're also going to deduct our retirement savings. That's about 5%. And that's $81.25. So once we've subtracted all of those deductions, which in this case is about $350.09, we'll come up with our total down here, our balance in this column of $1,274.91. So I'll give you a minute to see if you came up with that amount if you chose to be a fast food worker. That's where we would end up with our monthly net pay. So we started with gross income, which is before deductions. And once we take all of our deductions out for all of our taxes, that is our net or our bring home. And that's for the fast food worker. Now, if you chose the occupation of home health aide, we're going to follow the same process. The numbers are going to be a little different because we have a starting gross monthly income of $17.92. You can see that number right here under gross monthly income. And we're going to transfer that number down here to our beginning balance so that we can begin to determine what our net pay or our bring home pay is going to be once we take all of our taxes out. So again, we'll take our federal, our state, local taxes, our FICA, which is that Federal Insurance Contributions Act. That's what FICA stands for. Our retirement savings, for an ending balance of $1,378.67. That's a total of $413.33 that we're paying in all of these deductions every month. That's what we're going to be paying for a home health aide position. So is everyone following along? And hopefully you've done that math and ended with those numbers. I'll go back up to our fast food worker here. So the next block, the next thing that we're going to look at, so we've determined our net pay so far, but the next thing we're going to look at is our savings account. So this is money that we want to set aside for emergencies and goals. So it's important to have a savings account. We want to have a checking account that we pull money from to pay for bills, that we have our paycheck directly deposited into. And that's how, that's going to be the majority of our money that we put in to our checking account is for those purposes. But we want to have a separate savings account that we put money into each month that we don't touch unless it is truly an emergency or we're using it for a goal that we've set that we've been saving for a while. So maybe we want to go on a vacation. And so we're going to save in order to do that because vacation's expensive. You have to save for a little while to be able to go on vacation. Or maybe, in my budget every single year when Christmas rolls around, not everybody celebrates Christmas, but in my house, we celebrate Christmas and I buy some Christmas presents for people. And I know every year about August or September, I start putting a little bit of money in my savings account so that when December comes, I can buy some Christmas presents with that money. That's a savings goal I have. And if I want to go to Hilton Head on vacation in the summertime, then I know in January, I have to start putting a little bit of money aside in my savings account. So when it's time for me to go on vacation, I've got a little bit of money set aside so I can go on vacation without worrying about not having money to pay my bills, because that has to come first. So that's what our savings account is for. And also for emergencies, because if you have a home and all of a sudden you have your hot water heater goes out and you have to buy a new one, that's an emergency. That is money that you should be setting aside so that if something like that happens, you don't have to worry about not being able to pay your bills because you have to buy a new hot water heater. You already have that money set aside and you know that you have it there in case you need to use it for an emergency. So we want to make sure that we're putting some money in our savings account. So just to be simple, I budgeted $25 a month for each of these worksheets. So in our deduction column, we're going to write $25. I'm sorry, in our deposit column, in our deposit column, we're going to write $25 because that's money that we're putting into our savings. And so we're going to transfer our balance from our net pay to this top line of our balance and our savings. And then we are going to subtract $25 from that to get our new final monthly net pay, which we will put in this very bottom block down here, because we're taking $25 out of our net pay to put it in the savings. So down here at the bottom for our fast food worker, we're going to have a total of $1,249.91. And for our home health care worker, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take $25 and put it right here in our deposit column, leaving us down here with a final monthly net pay of $1,353.67. Okay. And Patty or Andrea, let me know if there's a chat or a question or anything that comes up. I'm happy to kind of take them as we go through this. So the last thing we're going to do before we start our PowerPoint and we start going through the actual booths is we also want to add in, for the purpose of this particular program, and we know that this might not apply to you right now, you're probably too young for this, but later in life, if you were to get married, we're going to pretend like we have a spouse named Chris. You can see in this final monthly net pay, you can see Chris's pay is $400. We're going to pretend that we have a partner named Chris who is also contributing to the household budget of $400. So the number that we came up with, that final monthly net pay, we're going to add $400 to that. And so for our fast food worker, our final net pay, which is what we're going to put on the very top of page 2 under balance column, because we're going to add that $400, will be $1,649.91. And for our home health aid, that balance will be $1,753.67. So that's our net amount plus Chris's $400 to give us our beginning balance.
Heather, I wasn't sure when the link that we had, it doesn't seem to be fillable. We were having trouble getting it filled. Would they be able to follow if they just write it down on a tablet then?
Absolutely.
So yep. If you get your final numbers, you can follow the workbook. You'll be able to see the workbook. It's just your balance. If you can repeat those balances for them.
Sure. So our beginning balance at the top of page 2 for the fast food worker, this includes Chris's $400 income, is going to be $1,649.91. And for our home health aid, the beginning balance at the top of page 2 is, this includes Chris's $400 income, is going to be $1,753.67. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this for a minute. And let's see if we can bring up, let me see if I can bring up, I did have another one. Let me see if I can find the one that's fillable, because I think I thought I sent that to you, Patty, but let's look.
It might have gotten lost in the transferring.
Okay. Let's see.
I'm just going to type those amounts in the chat too, so they have them.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So this is an old fillable one, so it's going to look a little different than what you have, but it's pretty much the same thing. But I want to show you this because I want to show you how, when we go through the booth, how we'll do this. So when we go to the first booth, what you're going to do is you're going to type on this line here under description, housing. And then when you make your housing choice of what you're spending on housing, I'll just give you an example. Yours might be different, but I'm just going to give you the example of, okay, I'm going to choose my housing to be $600 a month. It'll go under payment. And then you'll just keep the running total of your balance over here. Okay, so that's what this register is going to look like. So when we visit the booth, when it says description in that column, you'll write the name of the booth. And then payment is what your spending choice is. And then you'll just keep that running balance. So just so you know that that's what that's going to look like. Okay. All right. So let me bring up the PowerPoint.
Was that a link that you have for us, or that other one, or?
No, that was an old one.
Okay.
So I was just kind of giving you an example on that so everybody knows what that's going to look like. Because now we're going to go ahead and start visiting our booths. Okay, so can everybody see the PowerPoint that says Real Money, Real World?
Yep.
Okay, So I wanted to make sure. All right. So the very first booth we're going to visit is our housing booth. And you can see here that we have a couple choices of what kind of housing we want to live in. On the left-hand side over here, this is purchasing a home. So for this, you're going to need to get a loan. You'll have a mortgage payment. In addition to your monthly mortgage payment, you'll be paying monthly maintenance costs because anything that happens to the home is really going to be your responsibility. You're also going to pay property taxes. And then, of course, you'll also pay utilities. On the right-hand side of our screen, you see we have rental housing choices. And although we want to promote home ownership and we think home ownership is a great thing, when you're just starting out, it's really a good idea to keep your housing costs as low as possible. We recommend keeping it under, for anyone, 30% of your gross income. But in this case, because the jobs that we're looking at are lower paying wage, the fast food worker, if you break down that gross amount, is paying about $9.37 an hour, while the home health aide is paying about $10.33 an hour. So with that kind of hourly wage, we want to really make sure that we're keeping our housing expenses as low as possible. So depending on your situation, renting really might be the best choice. And, on the worksheet on page 1 of our worksheets, we had a spot there for savings. And so if you have a goal to own your own home, which is a great goal, and there's lots of reasons home ownership makes sense, but we can talk about this maybe in another meeting. But maybe that is where you really start to put some of your income into that savings account with the savings goal of home ownership. But for tonight, we just want to make sure that we're kind of hitting home the point that we want to keep our housing expenses as low as possible. So renting may be the best option. And keeping in mind, we want to make that renting total for the month last us through every single booth that we're going to visit. So if you're spending a lot of money on housing, you're going to run out of money pretty quickly. So for the example that I did on my worksheet, as I went through this, I actually ran through this before I got on tonight. I chose apartment option X, which is apartment, this apartment here, this 2-bedroom apartment. It's a little bit out of town, but my expenses are going to be my monthly rent of $600. There are no maintenance costs and there are no property taxes when you rent. We will have to pay for utilities, and that's going to run us $150 for our total rent of $750. So if you are choosing option X, which is the lowest amount of 750, actually you can rate that 600 on your housing line, because our next slide, we actually separated out the utilities. You can see here, number of bedrooms, we did a 2-bedroom is 150, which on the previous slide is included for 750. So you can do it either way you want. You can separate housing and utilities out and do 600 for housing and 150 for utilities, or you can add them together as they did here in this total rent column. It's up to you. But here's our utilities. Okay. So you're going to take that starting amount and you're going to subtract your housing and your utilities for your running balance. And we're going to move on to transportation. So transportation, you have the option to choose a new vehicle, or you can choose to purchase a used vehicle. And some of the things that we want to think about for a new vehicle is this is the total price of the small 2-door car is $18,000. That's the total price of that car. Now, our monthly payment for that car is going to be $327. We also have to remember that when we are a car owner, we're going to have to put gas in the car. So we're budgeting about $160 a month for gas. We also need to budget something for new brakes, oil changes, windshield wiper replacements. So any kind of maintenance that our car might need, we're going to budget $17 a month for our car maintenance, which means that our total monthly expense for that small two-door car is $504. That's for a new vehicle. If we move down to the next block, we can see here that a used vehicle is going to be a little less. So if we did a small two-door car, the total price for that vehicle, the two-door used vehicle, is $7,000. The monthly payment for that is going to be $109. Gas is going to run us around $150 with minimum maintenance of about $30. We're going to add a little bit more for maintenance because we may not have as much of a warranty as a new car would. And because it's a little older, things might go wrong with it a little quicker than if it was a new car. So we're going to bump that maintenance budget up just a little bit for a total monthly cost of $289. And then you can see we also have some other options on here. We have a medium-sized four-door car, we have a luxury car, and we have an SUV. So those are our options for transportation. So I'll give you a minute to think through if you would like to purchase a new vehicle or a used vehicle. And again, for my worksheet that I worked on before meeting with you guys tonight, I chose the used small car two-door vehicle for $289. So on my worksheet under transportation, I subtracted $289. Now there's another option of public transportation. If you happen to live in an area where you can purchase a monthly bus pass for unlimited use, we would budget $50 for that. So if that's an option where you live, or if you are not going to need transportation, you can simply write 0 on that line on your worksheet. So it's your choice. So the next slide that we're going to talk about is insurance. So for our insurance, if you own a home and you have a car, you're going to have insurance. So you can see here on the left-hand side, the sample insurance rate for vehicles. We have our deductible amount. We have a low deductible and a high deductible. And then we have our sample insurance rates for homes. And this is kind of self-explanatory. So depending on which home option you chose, you can see that it's already calculated here for you. So since I didn't buy a home, I'm going to come down here to the renter's insurance. And for $60,000 of content value each month, I'm going to pay $15 a month in insurance. And that's going to cover pretty much everything in my apartment that I'm going to need. So that's $15 for insurance for my home choice, for my housing. But then for my vehicle, because I chose that used vehicle, I'm going to actually go with the higher deductible. Let me explain how these deductibles work. So insurance is money, is a policy that you purchase in case you're in an accident or something happens to your vehicle. What happens is that you pay a little bit of money to have the car fixed, and then your insurance company pays the rest. In exchange for them to do that, you give them each month a certain amount of money, and that is called your policy premium. And if something would happen, say I get into a car accident, then I have to pay a certain amount of money up front. That's my portion that I have to pay. That's called my deductible. and then the insurance company will pay the rest. So for example, if my deductible is $50 and it's going to cost $100 to get my car fixed, I have to pay $50. After I pay that deductible, the insurance company will pay another $50. So it's kind of like we're splitting it with the insurance company. And you have your choice of either a low deductible or a high deductible. The difference is if you choose a low deductible, then your monthly payment will be higher, because instead of paying a lot more money at the time when something happens, you actually pay more each month. Whereas with a high deductible, you're kind of risking saying, I'm going to pay less each month, but if I were to get in a car accident, I know it's going to cost me a little more money at that time. But I'm willing, because I don't drive very much and I'm a very safe driver, I'm willing to go with the higher deductible, which means that my monthly payment is going to be a little lower. So I'm going to pay $35 a month for my vehicle insurance. Okay. So does anybody, Patty, Andrea, feel free to let me know if I need to go into that anymore, but we'll go ahead and move on for now.
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay. So next we're going to talk about health insurance. So we all have to have health insurance because if we get sick, we have to go to the doctor. Worst case scenario, we get into a car accident or we break our arm or something crazy happens and we need to go to the doctor or the hospital. We need to have health insurance. So this scale is based on income. And because the income that we have for our fast food worker and our home health aide falls under the $0 to $35,000 annually income bracket, we have our choice of a low deductible for $200 a month, which means that our deductible, if something were to happen, would be $500. Our premium's $200 a month, and our deductible would be $500. Or we have the choice of a premium of $50 a month with a higher deductible of $2,000. So again, I feel like I'm a pretty healthy person. I take good care of myself. Don't go to the doctor a whole lot right now. The best choice for me and my family is to go with the high deductible and that lower monthly premium of $50. So I'm going to write on my worksheet, under the description will be health and wellness. And then under the payment column will be $50 for my choice right here for the high deductible. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to catch up on your math if you're keeping track. And then our next booth that we're going to visit is the food booth. So we have to buy food. Everybody has to eat, and sometimes we forget to budget for that because we're thinking about the bills that come into our household budget. And sometimes we forget to budget for the food that we eat. Well, everybody eats, and we have to kind of figure out, how do we want to budget for this? So in this program, we have 3 choices. So we can budget for a thrifty plan, which is $150 a month, a moderate plan, which is $220 a month, or a liberal plan, which is $320 a month. So what does that mean? What is thrifty, moderate, liberal? So down here at the bottom, you can see that we give you a few descriptions of what that might look like. So for a thrifty plan, it means that you're going to have fewer choices to meet your budget. It's going to definitely be more off-brand or store brand type items. You're going to be shopping at discount stores, and you might want to rely on some coupons. That is a good method for saving money. You're going to be eating some more frozen or canned vegetables and some low-cost beans and meat choices for your proteins. Whereas the liberal plan, you can see you're going to have a wide variety of choices. You're going to have name brand items. You can shop organic or high-end stores. fresh fruits and vegetables, fresh fish, and expensive cuts of meat. So let me stop sharing for just a second, and I'm going to bring up, if I can find it really quickly. Yeah, here. Are you able to see that, Patty?
Nothing yet.
Okay, hold on, let me do it again. Hold on just a second. Sorry, it's always fun doing this. Okay. Hopefully you see it now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So here's some examples of what some foods that you might see or you might buy if you're shopping on a thrifty budget. So maybe some canned meats, some peanut butter, some lunch meats, ramen noodles. You're going to be drinking water. You're not going to have the budget for prepackaged type snacks. You're not going to have money for soda and those types of things. These are some of the moderate choices that you might see. Rather than eating out fast food, you're going to be packing your lunch, maybe some hamburger helper. You might be able to afford, some of the prepackaged things like the Lunchables, but definitely like maybe not as you can see, there's not a lot of fresh fruits or vegetables on this moderate plan. Whereas the liberal plan, you're going to see some organic items, you're going to see bottled water, soda, you're going to see some treats like ice cream, things like that. You're going to see fresh meats, cheese, fruit, things like that. So that hopefully these pictures give you a little bit better idea of what thrifty, moderate, and liberal kind of look like. Okay, let's go back to our PowerPoint from our current slide. Okay, are we back at the food booth PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So I'll give you a minute to do that math as we move on to our next booth, which is our clothing booth. So for this slide, we're going to have to make a choice of what kind of clothing we want to buy. So we all have to buy clothing sometimes. Some people like to shop more than others. But regardless, even if you're not somebody that likes to shop or buy a lot of clothes, we all have to buy clothes at some point. So you can make the choice of if you would like to buy basic clothing, which is thrift stores, no label, casual wear, or more designer type labels, or more type business wear. So I would say keep in mind the type of job that you're doing. So if you're a fast food worker or home health aide, you may not really need a lot of business wear because you might have a uniform that you wear to work. So designer labels might not really make a lot of sense for you at this point. So for me, for my worksheet, I went with the basic clothing. And for family size, I chose 2, which would be $140 because of my partner, Chris, as we talked about in the beginning. My family's 2 people for this exercise. So I wrote on my worksheet $140 for clothing. Okay. All right, so our next slide is communication. So I know a lot of you probably have a cell phone. But we have to choose what kind of package we want for our cell phone, including our internet package, if we want that. So for me, for my choice for my worksheet, really what I needed was a basic package, which is going to be unlimited text and calling. But you can see on this plan, there's no data available on it. For me, that's okay, because I'm really just using it like when I'm going to work and coming home. And then once I'm home, I have other things that I'm doing, so I don't really need that as much. So the monthly cost for me for the basic package was $40. And then for my internet service at my home, I want to be able to do some light streaming, and I want to be able to use email. So again, my internet cost was $40. So for my cell phone and my internet, it was a total of $80, 40 plus 40. So that was my total amount that I wrote down on my worksheet for communications was $80. So if you are doing a lot of gaming and you need a stronger internet service, lots of streaming, something like that, you might want to look at doing one of these more expensive internet packages. But for me, for my worksheet and for my budget, and I really want to make sure that I have money left at the end of the month, I'm going to start out with that lower monthly cost. And then maybe if I have some money left over at the end of the month, I'll see if I want to upgrade that later. But just starting out, I'm going to go with that lower amount for right now. Okay. So our next slide is entertainment. So we're obviously all busy because we're working our 40 hours at our fast food job or at our home health aid job. So we're going to be pretty busy, but on our free time, I want to be able to do something fun that I enjoy doing. And so here are some options for entertainment. So we're going to look here at the entertainment options in this column. You can see that we have the choice of maybe going to a movie. Maybe we like to go out to dinner, or maybe we want to stay home but have a pizza delivered. That sounds pretty good. We could do a movie rental, or we could possibly get a pet. And that's a big expense and a big responsibility, but that is on here for entertainment. Maybe going to a concert or a sporting event or an amusement park. But if we're going to do something like that for entertainment, we have to budget for it. So you can see here in the cost column, we have some costs attached to whichever entertainment option we chose. So say I want to go to a movie and out to dinner. The movie is going to cost me $20 per person. I'll probably go by myself because Chris is in school and working a lot. So maybe my partner is not going to be available, so I just might go on my own. So that's going to cost me $20 for the movie and then another $20 for eating out, which would be $40 for my budget. And I may not do that every month, but I'm going to splurge this month and just go for it. Now, you can see that if you're somebody who doesn't want to spend a lot of money on entertainment, there are a few options on here that are really low cost or even free. So if you don't want to spend money on entertainment, you could always maybe reserve a DVD through your local library, which is free. Or say you're a really outdoorsy person, you could go for a walk. That's great entertainment and it doesn't cost you anything. So this is where you get to make a choice of how you want to spend some of your monthly budget on fun. And you can see here, also we have the columns for babysitting, which we don't have to worry about that quite yet. All right. And our next, and I believe this might be our last slide, is contributions. So as members of society, it's a great thing to give back to your community. So whether this is giving to a local nonprofit, or maybe if you go to church and you decide you want to give money to your church, or maybe some other organization that you feel you want to support, this is the description column where you would write this in. So on my worksheet, I wrote that I was going to give $5 a month to my parish church. But that was just my worksheet. You can choose whichever, wherever you would like to support your community. And keep in mind that another way that you can contribute and make a difference is by donating your time and volunteering, which is another great way to be a part of your community without necessarily, if you don't have the budget to do it, you can volunteer. And that's also really, really valuable. And can make a big difference in your community. Just think if everybody gave $1 or gave 1 hour of their time to a cause that they felt was important, what an impact that would make on our communities. So please consider in your monthly budget how you want to contribute. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be a monetary donation or money for, that you're budgeting each month. It can be your time as well. Time and talent is important. So I think that is that is our last slide. So I'll stop sharing that. And Patty and Andrea, hopefully everybody has been able to kind of keep their running total as they move through the booths, but do we have any chat questions, or would anybody like to unmute and ask a question? Yes, Andrea, I saw your hand.
Heather, of two things as you were going through the slides. I know when you were talking about housing cost, some people may have a roommate if it's not your own family, or several roommates.
Sure.
I know right now too that there are a lot of multi-generations living in a large family home.
Yeah.
Just something, we have a variety of people, in different living situations. And then another note that I put in the chat was also too, when you were talking about clothing and possibly purchasing clothes for work, some places of business offer a uniform allowance or money to go toward uniforms.
Absolutely.
So just a couple of notes I noted that may be beneficial for our audience.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And just as a guideline, and I will say, great points, Andrea. My parents actually, we moved into a home 2 years ago, and my parents moved in with us 1 year ago. And so there's a lot of intergenerational families living together for sure. So thanks for bringing that up, Andrea. And it's different. I haven't lived with my parents in a really, really long time, but it's a great living situation. They have their own space, and it's really nice for them being older.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I just wanted to bring up those 2 points.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll have some comments too.
Yeah. So just to give you some idea, and this is not, hard and fast, these numbers will vary, but generally we like to keep housing around 30% of our income. So for food, we like to keep that between 13 to 16%. And again, this is give or take. Transportation, we really don't want to go over about 15% of our income. And then clothing, we generally budget between 4, 6, so just say 5%. And then we want to budget another maybe like 8% for miscellaneous items. So when you're budgeting, if you could kind of use those as just a guideline, it'll help you when you're making some choices. If you're going to buy a car, you might really kind of think to yourself, well, I want this new, sports car, but that's really much, much more than 15% of my income. So maybe I'll get the smaller vehicle for now and start putting some money back in my savings as a goal, to where I can afford a bigger down payment and maybe a lesser monthly payment later that's not going to eat up so much of my income, and try to stay within those guidelines.
Very good. Thank you, Heather.
Sure. Yeah.
I am going to stop the recording. So if there's anybody who wants to ask a question or unmute or on video, whichever, we can do that. But I'm going to stop the recording so we can just have an open discussion about some of this information that you shared. Is there anything before I stop the video that you want to include with the video?
Yeah, I'm hoping that, and I can certainly take questions once you stop the recording, but I'm hoping everyone ended on the positive side of their monthly budget with a little bit of money left over. And please keep in mind, if you were really, really close within $25, on that front page of our worksheet, we did put $25 in savings. So, if your monthly budget is a little close one month and you need to dip into that savings, keep in mind that it is there. If we need to adjust that amount, instead of 25, maybe we do 20 or 10 or $5 a month. The point is to get into the habit of paying yourself first and putting that money into the savings on a regular basis. That is really the point of that. But know that if your budget is is down to the end and you don't have it, that savings was put in ahead of time. So
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And if anybody has a question, like following this meeting, or if they listen to it, can they reach out to you with any questions?
absolutely. Yeah.
Can you mention what your email is or what contact information you would like them to reach out to you with?
Yes. So I will put into the chat my email. And then also our website, if you would like to go there and check out anything with Ohio State University Extension here in Butler County. So my email is reister.6@osu.edu. And our website is butler.osu.edu.
And I understand there's several of these extensions. Like you said, you worked with other people across Ohio for different areas, correct?
Yeah, so we have an extension office in all 88 counties in Ohio. I happen to work in the Butler County office, but Andrea, I believe you're in Montgomery County, correct? So, yep, so there's an extension office in every county in Ohio. And it will be your county name.osu.edu. And on that website, you'll find a page where your local staff is located if you're looking for family consumer sciences, which is my program area. But in addition to that, we also offer ag and natural resources, community development, and 4-H. So those are really our extension program areas. So I encourage you to reach out to your local extension office because they have a wealth of information on a variety of topics.
We have several people here from multiple counties, so that will give them an opportunity to reach out.
Yeah, and if you can't find your local educator, feel free to email me and I can find them for you. I can tell you who the educator is in your area.
All right, well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording so we can address some of the questions and just talk freely outside. But I want to thank everybody for coming and for those who are viewing. So 1 second and I will close the recording.